On DEJI 360, we don't just ask the questions. What is wrong with amending the Constitution the way the National Assembly members have been doing it? We seek answers.
Constitution is constituent.
Our problem is not lack of laws. Our problem is lack of the willpower to implement our laws.
Answers that provide clarity.
While we negotiate, we should try to make it a point that the girls must be complete.
The clarity you need to make informed judgment so that you can make the right decision and take action. People are saying it is you politicians that are responsible for this, that you are the reason why this is happening.
All these dollars that call themselves governors in this country.
I wish we had people like Tony at the National Assembly.
God forbid that I go to join that panel.
DEJI 360, providing clarity to issues. All right, welcome back. Now, let's talk about politics. And Nigeria's next presidential elections, well, not less than 8 months actually away. Now, as the countdown to the polls begin, it's only natural that politics becomes the topic of most discussions in the country. The election may set a new record in terms of the number of political parties that will be taking part in it. That's just the truth. Nigeria runs a multi-party system which allows for a large number of political parties to register to contest for elections. According to data now from the Electoral Umpire, that's the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, the current number of registered political parties in the country is 68. And guess what? INEC is not done registering parties yet, so the number will sure go up. If you also look around, it seems everyone wants to run for the presidency in 2019. It gives you a clear sense of the number of political parties there are out there. The fact is that there are huge implications involved for this. Some analysts have actually argued that the system is good because it gives a lot of persons a chance to run for political offices, especially when you consider the large number of Nigeria's ethnic groups and what have you. But just last week, some political analysts actually gathered in Abuja to discuss this issue. Take a listen now to what some of them had to say on the effectiveness now of Nigeria's multi-party system.
I think today here we've actually had political parties talking more about the need for us not only to have more political parties, but for more political parties to come on board to enrich and deepen, the engagement of people in society. And I think one of the key things that I personally take out from this discussion is that it's not just about the number. The number can be 100 or 200, but most significant thing is that that space is given to citizens to constructively engage in the entire process, and also the quality of political parties in terms of the agenda setting, in terms of having a well conceptualized ideology to drive the engagement in the entire process. I think that is something that I think is most significant, and that we add more value to the electoral process in the country.
I find it worrying that educated people talk about deregistering political parties. You don't deregister political parties, but you can say you need to win 4 or 5 councillorship seats to be able to contest in XY kind of election. But in terms of whether there are many of them, we are going to have more. We are going to have, political parties that are even municipal, that just think in terms of how to better Abuja. And that will become the ideology. That will become what they pursue. You cannot say they can't exist by law. That will be anti-democratic, and it will be infringing on the right of citizens. But INEC needs to do the necessary hard work of working through some kind of mechanics that will help to determine how you appear on the ballot.
Part of the reason why we are still in the crisis that we are in today, that people recognize that we have a challenge and that we have a problem, but that people say it has become part of our culture and we should not do anything about it. Part of a regulation that INEC can make is to also introduce sanctions for breaking INEC rules. Because after all, you did say that if political parties do not meet the 2/3 requirement, you are not going to register them.
Joining me now to discuss this further is Antonia Taye Okosi-Simbine, who is a national commissioner with INEC representing the North Central Zone. And of course, she's the chairperson of, Election and Political Party Monitoring Committee of INEC. Madam, thank you very much for joining us on the program. Let me start by asking you, 68 political parties, and we're just not done yet. I mean, you're still registering. There's a likelihood that more parties will be registered. Are we not in for an unprecedented situation where you would have, you know, a number of political parties, or the kind of number of political parties we'll have contest in the next election would be something we have never seen in this country?
Well, we are, but I think it's part of the enjoyment of the freedoms that democracy allows, and the fact that the environment is not constricted for political associations to apply for registration means that that is, in a sense, another benefit or fruit of the democratic process.
Now, you're quite right when you say it's part of the freedom guaranteed by democracy, but these must definitely come at a huge cost for INEC.
Definitely. At a huge cost for the Commission and for the whole nation at large. Too many has both advantages and disadvantages, and too few also have their own advantages and disadvantages. Essentially, too many cannot bring the kind of quality that one would expect in the democratic process, especially when parties are not guided by any principles or strong sentiments that they want to pursue, and especially those that will improve the socioeconomic and political processes of the country.
Now, let's narrow this down to cost, because I'm really, that's where I'm actually concerned about. Let's narrow it down to cost now. Can you break it down for us so that people can actually understand, you know, what it would mean to have, for instance, say 68 political parties, you know, field candidates for the presidential election? Of course, I know we wouldn't have that, but just give us a sense now of the cost in terms of the, you know, the ballot papers, election materials, and all of that.
Well, this will be better responded to by the operations people in terms of specific costs. But I will talk about the...
No, I'm actually not asking you to give us figures, but I'm just saying,
okay,
you know...
the budget
yes.
items.
Exactly.
Even in terms of the stakeholders meetings that we hold on a quarterly basis with political parties, it has come to a level now where the conference room that the Commission uses for its meetings can no longer hold the...
Oh, really?
Party. It cannot. So the last one, we had to change venue to our electoral institute to do that. So that is one. An ordinary A4 paper where you could write a list of the political parties before on one page, you can no longer do that. So you can see that you then would need 2 pages or 3 to be able to do this list. Not to speak of when you now come to the election proper. Okay, when you come to the election proper, you are going to have definitely a longer list on the ballot. But before you even get there, the processes of congresses, of primaries, and of nominations will get, excuse me, will get a bit more hectic. The staff have to go to monitor all of these activities. These are all some of the cost centers that we're going to see. If you were monitoring 10 or 20 parties before, now you have to monitor 6, and staff go from the headquarters to join the state level offices to carry out these processes. These are costs, okay? And when you have the ballot, if by any mistake, any little mistake that is done on the ballot, even if you have the logo of a party and it's a different color from what you normally have, it's a basis, it's a likely basis for the party to complain. You might end up having some logos being dropped inadvertently, and so on and so forth. And this can have cost implications, especially when elections are cancelled based on the fact that the political party was not included, exclusion of the political party in question.
There's also a challenge for the voter as well, because I'm just imagining going to the polling booth and I'm giving my ballot paper, and then you have this long list of political parties. The time it takes to actually, thumbprint, because it means I'll have to take my time now to go through the entire list now to fish out my own political party or the party that I actually want to vote for, and then do that. So there definitely you would have some time lag there, right?
Definitely. We also understand that ours is not a society where everybody is literate. People can read and write, So even for the recognition of party logos can be problematic. The Commission is working on design processes for the possible way the ballot will look, whether you have a very long one or you have something rectangular or something. But ultimately, all of it will depend on the number of parties that are on the ballot for any specific constituency election. It is very likely that we're going to be having spoilt ballots, People can thumbprint or think that something looks like the other one, and there will definitely be, to be expected that there will be more errors than before. But issues of voter education can also take care of this once we know how many parties on time and we're able to explain to the electorate. But we're also counting on the parties. They are the beneficiaries of the votes. It is their business to educate the populace about the way things will look and the way that or how they should go about voting.
Let me ask, is there a rule? I mean, is there a chance that some of these political parties might be, I don't know how to put it now. Is there a chance that some of them might be disqualified, for not meeting the requirements now before the election, as we have seen in the past, where INEC basically disqualified some political parties after registering them because at the end of the day it found out that they had not actually maintained the requirement provided for in not just in the Constitution but INEC's rules.
Yes, some of these 51 may not meet up. But even for those that meet up, the Commission had previously deregistered political parties on various grounds. Some for not meeting the conditions for registration as at the time of the election. Some for not winning any elections at any level, so they were deregistered before then. But most of these parties went back to court, and the view of the court was that essentially for most of them, the Commission did not give them an opportunity to respond to the queries that they were given. So what we are doing now is to actually try to build a trail of communication. We're in constant conversation with the parties. We tell them about compliance or non-compliance issues, and these are based on existing conditions or requirements for registration. Once you meet them, or many of them, when they meet the conditions, they don't ensure that they remain in compliance. For instance, part of the condition is that you have offices in the headquarters, in the FCT, but you end up finding that some of them are able to pay the rent for a few years and thereafter they are not able to. That is problematic for the Commission in terms of where do you meet them if you needed to go and meet with them. So we tell them that, okay, you are no longer in compliance, and we give them an opportunity to respond to this. And many of them have also been responding. This was something that was not very much the case before in terms of communication with the parties. I think we just went ahead and deregistered them then, and the court said we needed to have given them opportunity to respond to this. So as we move closer, it should be possible to engage further with the political parties so that they can remain in compliance. But much more importantly, what we see and envisage is that even though we have many parties, it would probably not be 100% of them that will be able to field candidates for all the offices. For the 2015 election, for instance, you find that about 50% of the then 28 political parties fielded candidates for the presidential election. Only 50. So we hope that nevertheless, even if all of them don't, there will be a marked change, or the process will be affected by the large number of political parties. It will be much larger than before, definitely.
Let me just quickly ask you before I let you go. I know that in the past, INEC usually gives subventions now to these political parties. I'm talking about funds. I think at some point you were giving them, is it 6 million naira each or so? Is that practice still on? Do you give political parties subventions?
The practice is not on, has not been on for some time. Some of the political parties will like it to happen. We do not have a budget for that, and the legal framework is also not there presently for that to happen. Then when you again look at the issue of the proliferation of political parties, it just might be difficult to cope with the huge number of political parties. Not only might it be difficult, but it's obvious that that will be another cost center. If you could give 5 million per party per year, if you then have 80 or 100 political parties, we can see what that means. Essentially, it is important that political parties or associations seeking to be registered as political parties need to understand that it is a costly venture, and even there is opportunity for people's ideas to converge. And the legal framework also provides for the possibility of merger of ideas in the form of political parties. So I think that some of these parties could also, that is an area that they could look at. For now, however, there is no provision for state funding for political parties in Nigeria.
Well, and I hope everybody knows that. I hope the political parties too realize that, because in the past, we had situations where some parties simply registered, got the money, and just disappeared. Well, this is Antonia Taye Okosisimbine, INEC National Commissioner and the chairperson of the Election and Political Party Monitoring Committee of INEC. Thank you very much for joining us on the program and for enlightening us now on political parties and what we should expect in 2019. Well, it's on that note we end DEJI 360. We thank you very much for watching, but if you want to watch it again, it's simple. Just go to our website, tv360nigeria.com. You'll find this program and lots more there. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/TV360Nigeria. Do subscribe now to get the latest updates and, of course, videos of things happening around the country. You can join us on Google Plus as well. It's at TV360Nigeria, or like us on Facebook. The address is facebook.com/TV360online. You can also follow us on Twitter. Our handle is at TV360Nigeria. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you again next week.